Welcome to our podcast, and I'm Kiara.
And I'm Kai. Today we're talking about HIV, going over what it is, what it's like living with HIV, and some interesting facts and articles surrounding this topic.
So a quick overview on HIV would be that this is a virus believed to have originated from a type of chimpanzee in West Africa as a source of HIV infection in humans around the early 1900s. Scientists believe it's most likely transmitted to humans and mutated into HIV from SIV when humans hunted these chimpanzees for meat and came into contact with the infected blood. Over decades, in fact, the virus slowly spread across Africa and later into other parts of the world.
The virus today affects CD4 cells in the body, also known as T cells, which are vital for the immune system and response. With these T cells lowering in numbers, the human body is prone to infections and diseases. If left untreated, HIV can progress onto AIDS. Around 37 million people are living with HIV or AIDS globally, as recorded in an article in 2018. That's nearly the entire population of Canada. But now, amazingly, UK has reached the statistics of a 90-90-90 target of all ages, where 80% are aware of their HIV status, 96 of the 98% of people living with HIV are on treatment, and 97% are virally suppressed.
Although there is currently no cure, in the last 30 years, medicine has advanced and progressed dramatically, where people are able to take HIV treatment after infection and virtually carry on with their lives as normal, with an undetectable viral load. Whereas before, having HIV meant that progression to AIDS was inevitable and life expectancy was extremely short.
Stigmas. Right. So sexual diseases themselves have a bad reputation as it disposes an individual of promiscuity and debauchery. Moreover, with homosexual men being one of the demographics for the HIV transmission, this further fuels the stigma. However, they should most definitely not be frowned upon, as this is most likely not the case for many individuals. For example, in countries of overpopulation, there is a higher risk of transmission. There is also a key link between HIV and violence against women and girls, e.g. their inability to negotiate condom use. Domestic violence or fear of violence in intimate partner relationships can prevent women seeking HIV testing. There are also child marriages. This increases the risk of infection because older men have a high prevalence of HIV. There are so many circumstances for one to have contacted with HIV, and it is far from the normal schema which we associate with STDs.
That is extremely true. Also, the lack of knowledge leaves room for stigmas, discrimination and misconceptions to fester. An example is that my friend recently mentioned there was a Facebook post on how there was a homeless guy on the loose in Canterbury with HIV and was said to randomly bite people in hopes of infecting them. This caused a massive scandal with everyone freaking out, and it highlights how people aren't being educated properly on the ways of transmission, as we know HIV can't be transmitted through saliva. But I'm not quite sure how trustworthy this Facebook post is on the first place.
Well, definitely. But it surprised me when you told me that during your research on the UK Stigma Index 2015 article, that 1 in 5 people reported are being excluded from family events because of their HIV status. In this sense, education and being fully knowledgeable is definitely very important to ensure that the well-being of the diagnosed individual is met during their difficult time and that peers can give the appropriate support as needed. This does not only limit to HIV but other STDs as well.
Yeah, it's not always easy for people to get tested for HIV or get access to care in the first place. In addition, fear, stigma and homophobia and other adverse social forces continue to compromise the HIV treatment. Moreover, it can make the individual turn to self-cures, which is an increasing problem as the media promotion is quite high on this topic. And it doesn't help that the internet is so easily accessible whilst giving that sense of anonymity. As a result, this gives rise to self-cure treatments.
You know, I've always wondered why people turn to self-cures apart from the media promotion and save from the embarrassment. They haven't been scientifically tested, and there is a golden treatment from the GPs for a reason, and the more you delay it, the condition worsens.
That is true, but I guess in that situation, some may be in denial over their diagnosis. Interestingly, a recent BBC documentary on a man living with HIV has mentioned why he turned to self-cures. Let's listen to his situation.
And it was when I got the diagnosis, because I was in so much denial about it, and I had in my mind that I was going to cure myself with this urine therapy, that I almost used that as an excuse in my head for continuing to have unprotected sex.
Yeah, in cases like this, it must be very difficult, and sometimes conditions like this are life-changing, thus causing that rational mindset to waver. Here is a recording from Rob and Tony talking about their experiences of HIV stigma and how it has changed over the years when disclosing about their diagnosis.
Do those reactions in today's age still shock you?
Yeah, I mean, it's strange because it seems the stigma seems to have got worse as the outcome and everything has got better. Because in the early days, you'd tell people that you were positive, and like I say, most people would say, yeah, so am I, so it was fine, you just got on and done what you wanted to do. And there didn't seem that stigma, I think because everybody knew somebody that has got it, died from it or whatever, so you just, it was like, yeah, okay, we know it's around. And yeah, but nowadays, because thankfully that's in the past, the stigma's got worse.
That actually surprised me for him to say that people's attitudes have gotten worse in 2018, because you would think that today's social reformation and there's more acceptance, people would be more understanding. However, this just isn't the case. People were living with HIV. During my research, I found loads of resources to support those living with HIV. For example, there are lots of charities and magazines dedicated just for HIV and AIDS. Also, there are chat rooms and vlogs available where the individual can chat or listen to someone that lives with the condition.
Yeah, the amount of support available is astonishing, and sometimes it makes us forget how privileged we are, as most developing countries wouldn't even have the chance to get access, or it would be very difficult to find most of this support, which is so readily available to us.
Here's Josh's story on how he lived with HIV and created a vlog to support those who are HIV positive.
I think that the fear for me was that I didn't know one person at the age of 29 that was HIV positive that had told me. And so that was a weird and fearful, like, I don't know what this is going to be like. So I felt really alone. I just wanted to stop feeling bad. You know, in those 3 weeks, I mean, I had 30 ulcers that developed, like, in my mouth. And every night that I went to sleep, I had bed sweats, night sweats that would, like, you'd wake up and it wasn't like, oh, you wet yourself. I mean, it was like, oh, like you literally poured water all over yourself and you woke up and you were wet. And so, like, all of that, not feeling good, the ongoing headache, like all of that stuff was like, this is all going to culminate into me eventually dying because I had sex and was exposed to HIV. And that was pretty scary. I couldn't find a resource that like spoke to me. And that's why I created the website and the blog, so that people in this town or people online could find something and try to make them not feel like they're going to die on the day that they get the worst news of their life.
From that account, it's obvious that living with HIV isn't easy, but it's people like Josh that help provide the support for the community, and that's inspirational.
Right, so before we finish the podcast, I just wanted to get your opinion on something. So recently, on the news, a Chinese scientist was said to have made the world's first GM baby. Twins nicknamed Lulu and Nana, where the genome was edited to be HIV resistant. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's a really good idea. It is a great way for humans to become resistant to that condition. And if it becomes successful, it unlocks so many other potential resistances to illnesses which are uncurable.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. It does have its appeal, but genetic modification is banned in China. And the university where he conducted the research and trials, they gave no consent to this.
I think the ethical issues of modifying a baby are outweighed by the impact it can have on the progress of science. And like he said in the BBC article, he knows his work is, as he quotes, controversial, but I believe families need this technology, and I'm willing to take the criticism for them.
Although unethical, he has taken that first step that could change the future for the better. But if it backfires, its consequences are extremely severe for all parties involved. It's said that the technology isn't intended for embryos for pregnancy and it shouldn't be attempted yet. But I guess it's only a matter of time that this was bound to happen anyway. And also, how can we know if it wasn't the right time to attempt if it has never been done before?
Yeah, if it isn't him doing it, it would be most likely that someone somewhere in the world would have been conducting the exact same research program, though it is important to keep in mind that the balance between potential benefits and potential risks.
Well said, and that's all from us today. Let us know what your opinions on GM babies are. Until next time.
Thank you for listening. Have a good day.
Audio Jungle.